What assassins should always remember is just because you take somebody out doesn't mean the message is going to stop. And it's important to keep that in mind, because when you look at our loss of Martin Luther King, or name anyone who's been assassinated in this country, we continue to fight on.
That was yesterday. Whoopi Goldberg on The View talking about Charlie Kirk's assassination. That's interesting, isn't it? I have some thoughts on that. It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka in for my friend Chris Plant, who is dealing with the summons for jury duty today. I expect he will be returned to his rightful place tomorrow, but I am here to try and get everything onto the air because there is so much going on. That was very interesting yesterday. We watched The View so you don't have to. And the statements made by Whoopi Goldberg, who I in full disclosure, I worked alongside Whoopi Goldberg for about a year and a half. And at that time, it was 2007. She was not a crazy person. As a matter of fact, she was a smart person. An Oscar winner, an Emmy winner, a Grammy winner, a Tony winner. She has the EGOT, as they say. But she got radicalized, and I think it happened in the first Trump administration and continued. But that statement yesterday is kind of interesting to me, because if we break it down, there's some interesting, distinct truth in what Whoopi Goldberg was saying yesterday on The View. Michael, can I ask for that clip to be played one more time?
What assassins should always remember is just because you take somebody out doesn't mean the message is going to stop. And it's important to keep that in mind, because when you look at our loss of Martin Luther King, or name anyone who's been assassinated in this country, we continue to fight on.
And I think that is a very important message for everyone who still feels the loss of Charlie Kirk. The message doesn't die. In fact, it gets amplified. Yesterday, the number was, I think, somewhere around 19 or 20,000 new chapters of Turning Point had been requested to set up on campuses around the country, high school and college campuses. I think that's a very important point. I also think it's interesting that the left, one of the loudest voices on the left, Whoopi Goldberg, has a platform on national television every single day with the other harpies on The View, effectively equated Charlie Kirk with Dr. King. Very interesting to me. Very interesting. We'll follow up on that story to see if there's any additional thoughts that come through on that. But that caught my attention as well. 888-630-9625 is the number here at the Chris Plant Show. We will get to the president as he is now heading towards England for a state visit with King Charles III and the Queen and no doubt Keir Starmer. I hope the president brings up what he has seen in the abuse of free speech in England. I wonder if they'll bring up the march that happened over the weekend. It was not necessarily started as a Charlie Kirk march, but Charlie Kirk was featured prominently in many of the hundreds of thousands of people who marched through the streets of London. I wonder if there will be some off-the-cuff remarks that are made. The king usually doesn't do that. Nobody does it like Donald Trump. In fact, President Trump was leaving the White House today out on the South Lawn as Marine One was waiting for him, and he held forth, as he always does, it seems. He will stop and talk to the press, unlike Biden, who never stopped and talked to the press because he couldn't. But he was asked about the trip to the UK and had this to say.
Your trip to the UK today, what do you hope to achieve? Well, my relationship is very good with the UK, and Charles, as you know, who's now king, is my friend. And it's the first time this has ever happened where somebody was honored twice, so it's a great honor. And this one's at Windsor. They've never used Windsor Castle for this before. They used Buckingham Palace. And I don't want to say one's better than the other, but they say Windsor Castle is the ultimate, right? So it's going to be nice. But basically, I'm there also on trade. They want to see if they can refine the trade deal a little bit. We made a deal, and it's a great deal. And I'm into helping.
I think the president is always a step ahead of people, especially when it comes to negotiations. It does sound like the Brits may want to, as the president said, refine the trade deal a little bit. Maybe they think they didn't have the upper hand. So they're putting on a parade. They've invited the president out to Windsor Castle. There is going to be a carriage ride through the streets of London. I'm guessing this is going to be a security nightmare. I'm hoping our president is safe. I know the vehicle, the presidential limousine, is safe, but if you're going to be in a carriage, horse-drawn carriage, that makes me a little nervous. I'm going to follow up on that and see what's going on with that. We'll see what the report is. There was more on the UK. The second part of the president's questions on the United Kingdom.
Our country is doing very well. We've never done this well. We're having trillions of dollars coming because of the tariffs. They'd like to see if they could get a little bit better deal, so we'll talk to them. But primarily it's to be with Prince Charles and Camilla. They're friends of mine for a long time, long before he was king. And it's an honor to have him as king. And, you know, I think he represents the country so well. I've watched. He's such an elegant gentleman, and he represents the country so well.
I differ with the president on his assessment of King Charles. And I wonder, because King Charles, let's face it, he was one of the greenies. He was one of the climate change guys. We'll see what happens because of this meeting. President Trump is doing the same kind of buttering up that it looks like the Brits are doing, because we anticipate there's going to be some kind of negotiation that's going to happen. Overnight, early this morning here, we were told about the Israeli forces that began a ground offensive into Gaza. They're planning on occupying the Gaza Strip, and there are all kinds of different reports out there that are not really telling us the full story. But the president was asked about the Israeli ground offense this morning. That would be the fourth cut. If you guys have it. Maybe not. Do you have the third cut, which is the reporter on Gaza?
What about the idea of Israel beginning this ground offensive in Gaza City? Do you support that? Well,
I have to see. I mean, I don't know too much about it. I can tell you that if they put the hostages in front of them, Hamas, as protection, as they call them bodyguards, Hamas is going to have hell to pay.
Yeah, the human shield thing, the IDF doesn't have any patience for the human shield thing. And we'll see what happens on that. I know there's reportedly 20 hostages remaining now. How many of those are still alive? It's hard to say and very difficult to speculate as well. Do we have the fourth cut on the Israeli ground offensive?
What about the idea of Israel beginning this ground offensive in Gaza City? Do you support that?
Well, I have to see. I mean, I don't know too much about it. I can tell you that if they put the hostages in front of them, Hamas, as protection, as they call them bodyguards, Hamas is going to have hell to pay.
Yeah, I think that is the statement that is going to be repeated over and over again. The IDF is not going to stand for human shields. It's a popular technique. That's why Hamas would build its storehouse of ammunition and rocketry underneath schools and hospitals in the Gaza Strip. It's a despicable tactic. All right, I have so much more I want to get to today, but I also want to hear from you and your calls. 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. Let's go to Anadia in Warrenton, Virginia. Hello.
Hey, good morning, Michael. Thank you for taking the call. My name is Anita.
Anita, okay.
What I wanted to say, thanks. Hey, what I wanted to say was one more comment regarding Charlie Kirk. I've been listening to the different comments over the weekend since his assassination. And everyone keeps saying, what a nice man he was, what a nice family, da-da-da-da-da. He was very humble. But no one has emphasized, and maybe they presume that the audience out there has seen him at campus events or what have you. But for those who have not, whenever Charlie was debating someone, especially on these campuses, he never insulted his audience. He never called anyone names. He would say, okay, we agree that we disagree. He never called anyone names. And that's why I have a hard time with this equivalency that some people on the right and all the left is saying, well, there's political violence on both sides. Well, Charlie and others were not calling their opponents Nazis or fatties or piggies or anything like that. He just said, okay, that's your point of view. I've tried. Here's my point of view. And I think that's gotten lost in all the commentary and commemoration of Charlie, not to take away from what everyone has said that's been honest and nice about him.
That's a great point. And I will tell you, Anita, when I look at some of these videos, and I have probably watched a couple hundred Charlie Kirk videos since last week, some of the people with the multicolored hair and the piercings and the language that they use to confront him, it would be very difficult for me not to make a snarky comment. I would have a hard time doing what Charlie did. And I think that's the challenge that we're all facing right now. If we could all be like Charlie, I posted over the weekend one of the graphics that's been bouncing around the internet that says, Je suis Charlie. And it's kind of in the motto of the Charlie Hebdo tragedy that happened years ago in France. We're all Charlie Hebdo. Well, we're all Charlie Kirk right now as well. That's a great point. And the other side of that, Anita, if somebody comes on like a herd of wet goats and is attacking you, and you hit them back with kindness and clarity and just say, I don't care about your insults, I just want to understand, it's very disarming. And it takes the vitriol out of the argument and focuses not on the feelings, but on the facts. And that's kind of a critical thing. Thanks for your call. I appreciate you. Let me grab one more. Bill in Manassas, Virginia. Hello, Bill.
Good morning.
What's up, sir?
I always hear it's always nice to hear your voice, Mike Opelka, when you take over for Chris every time. I really appreciate hearing your voice.
Thank you, sir. That's kind.
Yes. I just want to say that some people won't like what I have to say, but I think one of the big reasons in our country right now is they've taken God out of the equation. When I grew up in Southern Virginia back in the 70s and late 60s, everybody went to church, Michael. Everybody I knew went to church. Even when I went to school, we would say the Lord's Prayer first, and then everybody would say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag after that. And then, of course, they took they took God out of the school back in the lady, I forget her name right off the top of my head.
Madeline Murray O'Hare was the woman who got God taken out of the schools.
Yes, yes sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And it's the reason they call the South the Bible Belt. We moved up here, everything changed. Americans have lost respect for their fellow person. The love has gone away in this country as far as the way I look at the perspective of everything that's happening. I think, and the Bible says, love thy neighbor as you love thyself. I think we've lost that, and I hope we get it back. I hope everybody can look at these assassinations, even the assassination on President Trump, I believe was a moment that the Lord stepped in and saved his life for a reason. So these things I look at, and I can see it's a big problem since God is just taken out of everything anymore.
Bill?
You can't even talk. Yes, sir.
Bill, I'm not disagreeing with you. I just have to jump in because of time. I will tell you the theory that I've been addressing for years now is we replaced, as a country, God with government, and that was a big mistake. And this past Sunday or Saturday, if you didn't attend a house of worship, you missed one of the greatest crowds you would have ever seen. And then the real test will be this week. Will the churches be filled again? I have a feeling they will be. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate you. 888-630-9625. It's Opelka in for Plant on the Chris Plant Show. It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka in for my buddy Chris Plant. He is facing jury duty. Oh, boy. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. We have so many stories that are bubbling right now. We talked about the president as he is flying over to Europe, and we played some clips, various clips regarding Charlie Kirk's assassination. We will get you some of the highlights from Kash Patel's testimony in the Senate, but I want to touch base with a few of you who've been on hold as we're having fun on the phones as well. Let's talk to Dan in Pasadena, Texas. Home of Gillies. I don't even know if Gillies is still there. Hello, Dan. Welcome.
Good morning. Nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you.
Gillies is long gone.
Oh, that tells you how long it's been since I've been in the Houston area. But welcome, sir. What's on your mind?
Well, I'd like to make a couple of recommendations, basically about the way things are spoken about. You mentioned Charlie Hebdo and other related things, and what the word people usually apply to those types of events is tragedy. I think that's the wrong word. To me, a tragedy is when someone gets killed by a tornado or a lightning bolt or a flash flood. I think the correct word for events like that is an atrocity.
Well, that's a good point. That's a fair point. I was trying to figure out where you were going, Dan, but I will grant you that. That's a really fair point. Atrocity. It was an atrocity what was done to Charlie Kirk. And just a horrible, horrible situation. So, yes, checking that box. Well done. And there he goes. President Trump and a couple more comments before he left, plus Kash Patel staring down Adam Schiff for brains in the Senate hearing. And little Dick Durbin. We'll hear what Kash Patel had to say and more. It's Opelka in for Plant on the Chris Plant Show. It is the Chris Plant Show on this Tuesday. Mike Opelka in for my buddy Chris Plant. Hopefully he'll be back tomorrow as he faces down a summons for jury duty. Accent on the duty. We'll see what happens. We have so much to get to today. Kash Patel testifying in the Judiciary Committee hearing. Donald Trump winging it now to Europe. Before he left, he stopped outside the White House and talked to some of the media and was given a little update. The president was given some news before he left. The sad news about the loss of a great American actor.
Actor Robert Redford passed away today. Did you hear about that?
Did? Wow.
He was apparently in his sleep at his home.
Well, that's a good way to go, I guess. But I'll tell you, Robert Redford was great. He had a series of years that there was nobody better. This just happened, I guess, huh? Wow.
He died at his home in Utah in his sleep.
Yeah.
And what movie would you say you liked the best in?
Well, you have a lot of them. Honestly, I'd say he made 7 or 8 great movies. They were really great. There was a period of time when he was the hottest. I thought he was great.
On TikTok.
Yeah, he was great. It would be hard to pick it. And, you know, the president is smart there because if he would have said The Sting, there would have been 7 articles on MSNBC and CNN and on The View saying Donald Trump overlooks the greatness of Redford in The Way We Were and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and his directing skills and Ordinary People. you know that's the best way to go. Very interesting. And then there was the moment when a reporter from an Australian television network asked the president a question that was obviously meant to irritate him.
Is it appropriate, President Trump, that a president in office should be engaged in so much business activity?
Well,
So the question, in case you couldn't hear it over the Marine One helicopter, is it appropriate for the president in office to be engaged in so much business activity? Asked Crocodile Dundee.
Well, I'm really not. My kids are running the business. I'm here. You know what the activity, where are you from?
I'm from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, Paul Cornyn's program.
Well, the Australians, you're hurting Australia, right? In my opinion, you are hurting Australia very much right now. And they want to get along with me. You know, your leader is coming over to see me very soon. I'm going to tell him about you. You set a very bad tone. Go ahead, John. Maybe you can set a nicer tone.
When the UAE does a deal, what does it want in return?
Quiet.
I do enjoy it when the president turns to a reporter who just keeps trying to shout his question over and over and goes, quiet. You be quiet. You over there, be quiet. He answered the question. My kids are running the business. And speaking of the president's kids, his son Eric has a book that's coming out, and he has dedicated a portion of the proceeds. He didn't say how much. That's the one thing I want to know. A portion of the sales to Turning Point USA and the efforts to keep Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk's mission alive. And we'll see what happens on that. I'll look for clarification to see if there is additional information available. The story that we are monitoring, the charges against Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin have not been posted yet. I think he's doing court today out in Utah. And meanwhile, the FBI director, Kash Patel, is in front of a congressional committee, a Senate committee. I guess congressional works too because the Senate's part of Congress. He's in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and the Democrats are just taking pot shots. And I don't think they realize that Kash Patel does not care what they think because he has endured the slings and arrows of the left for 16 years. He was there. He was there in the Department of the Defense when it was the Department of Defense, now the Department of War. He was in the Pentagon. He was in the Justice Department. He witnessed what the Democrats did when Kash Patel and Donald Trump were trying to get the National Guard engaged ahead of January 6th. And Pelosi and the Democrats said, no, we're good. We don't need that. Don't worry about it. And he's kept the receipts. So it's really interesting. But as he was wrapping up his opening remarks in the hearing, Kash Patel had a special message for Dick Durbin and the Democrats.
And in closing, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee and Ranking Member Durbin, I'm honored to be the 9th director of the FBI. I'm not going anywhere. If you want to criticize my 16 years of service, please bring it on. Over to you.
Boom. A little mic drop moment there. I wish they would give him a mic so he could actually drop the mic. That would be fun to see. Kash Patel, we'll get to some of the highlights of it, and we'll have more fun. I also want to get to the Pam Bondi story, because this relates to something we were talking about earlier today, and that First Amendment and free speech. Big supporter of free speech, absolutist. Now, we have restrictions on licensed broadcast channels. We have words that we cannot say, and we understand that. But in your personal life, I think you should be allowed to say whatever you want. In your personal life, I think it's okay. You just have to be ready for the consequences. You have to realize that if you say something in public and your boss thinks it's a bad idea, then you got to deal with that because you might not have a job going forward. You might be walking down the road kicking rocks because your boss didn't want his business associated with people who think like you. That's his right as a business owner. So I'm all for free speech, and I think, as we said earlier, Charlie Kirk was all for free speech, too. He was totally in on every bit of speech. You can be as offensive as you want, as long as you realize you're allowed to say it, but accountability has to be there. And with the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, saying some statements that we're going to be investigating some of these social media outlets and looking at some of the free speech stuff, I'm not comfortable with that kind of action. I think we have to stand up for free speech as long as we're still a country. I think we have to demand protections that are guaranteed in the First Amendment. So Pam Bondi, I'm kind of pausing here and saying, oh, what the heck are you talking about, ma'am? She said this on a podcast yesterday, on the podcast with Stephen Miller's wife, Katie Miller.
There's free speech and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
I get very nervous when we start sounding like Democrats. What is hate speech? Who's going to decide what hate speech is? Who really has the say on that? Now, the president was asked about Pam Bondi as he was leaving the country as well. The president is totally supporting Pam Bondi. He said this as he was leaving the White House.
Well, first of all, I think that Pam Bondi has done an unbelievable job, and everybody agrees with that.
Look, I think she's doing a good job. I don't think she's quite yet on unbelievable level yet. That's just me, but continue, sir.
And Cash, if you take a look at what he did with respect to this horrible person that he just captured. He did it in 2 days.
Yeah. The TV show First 48, Cash Patel's investigation, the FBI, the local authorities in Utah got it done in 33 hours. So they would have been a success on the old First 48 TV show.
It took other similar cases 4 days, 5 days, 4 years, if you look at certain shooters. Now, I have confidence in everybody in the administration. My administration, and a lot of people are saying it, not just me, it's so far the best administration ever formed.
I agree it's a very strong administration, Mr. President. But we haven't seen anyone perp walked on some of the issues that we would like to see people perp walked on. Epstein comes to mind, and the binders come to mind. And if you think I'm wrong on that, you're always welcome to chime in. 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. Steve is in Peachtree City, Georgia. Steve, welcome to the Chris Plant Show. What's on your mind?
Thanks, Mike. By the way, you do a great job filling in for Chris.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
And I hadn't heard Pam Bondi before, but I cringed to hear her use the term hate speech.
Yeah.
My thought is this. Somewhere between people putting up a happy face about Charlie being murdered and saying, great, he deserved it, we need more of this, I think you cross the line in terms of how people should react, and possibly even a legal line of encouraging more people to commit murder.
Well, we go back to something my buddy Larry O'Connor on the flagship station of the Chris Plant Show in Washington, D.C., WMAL, posted, I think it was last week, he posted a montage from Joe Biden's Dark Brandon speech in Philadelphia. Remember that a couple of years ago? And how many times...
Yeah. It was better in the original German, by the way.
Oh, well played, Steve. That was very well played. No, but in that speech, you hear Biden constantly saying that Donald Trump is an existential threat to our democracy, that the MAGA Republicans are an existential threat to our democracy. And how many times does a person who might have some mental health issues have to hear that there's a threat to our country and to our democracy before one person, all you need is one nut job to say, I'm going to do something about this. So I'm loath to let anybody decide what hate speech is. because that is a very slippery slope, and the First Amendment shall not be abridged.
I agree with you. I just think it's worth looking into the more egregious cases where they're quite clearly encouraging murder.
Well, there's a report out today, and we'll be going into this later, that there is a kind of an angry, violent trans organization that was out there posting a prediction of the death of Charlie Kirk 2 weeks before this happened, even talking about location and date. And now all those posts have been scrubbed. But we're going to have to see where's the line. If someone is calling for the assassination of a person, I think that warrants a discussion. I don't know if that warrants being locked up, but I do think it warrants the attention of law enforcement. And some could say, well, now you're giving a chilling warning to people. No, I think we have to be able to talk to people. We will see. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate the thoughts and comments and the kind words. Let's check in with Smiley in Frederick, Maryland. Hello, Smiley. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
How you doing there, Mr. Michael? Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've been on X here lately. I'm a trucker, also a 40-plus year veteran martial arts. There's been a lot of people on X that's saying now we need, that's a big word, to kill President Trump and Elon Musk. I'm with Pam Bundy on that. I'm with her on that. Because if I've heard somebody to say that about me, that's hate speech. I'm taking them the flat out. That's just the way it is.
You're not allowed to threaten the life of the President of the United States. You do get a discussion with Secret Service. I'm old enough to remember when Barack Obama was President of the United States and a political artist named Sabo made a toilet seat that was Obama's face. And the mouth was, the open mouth was Obama's mouth. That was the seat. He got a visit from Secret Service. So, and that was just for, not for a death threat. So I'm okay with people getting a visit from Secret Service if they're threatening the president's life. But it is a very slippery slope to me, Smiley. Now, Smiley, what are you hauling?
Right today, I'm hauling stock for asphalt plants.
Oh, wow. Okay, good.
Yes, sir. And my day can be between 12 and 17 hours every day.
So usually you work a half day, 12 hours.
You could call it that, a half day.
Keep those wheels on the asphalt. Keep that asphalt floating. Keep those wheels on the asphalt. Thank you. Thank you, Smiley. Appreciate you, brother. I got to take a break. I will get back to more of these calls. There are a lot of people checking in right now, and we have some interesting theories being offered. We also have to continue this discussion about the First Amendment. The First Amendment, it protects 5 things. Speech is just one of them. And it's something that I will fight forever. Greg Gutfeld also had some interesting things to say yesterday about people who keep saying, it's both sides, it's both sides. It was quite an impassioned argument. We'll get to all of it, I hope. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show. It is The Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka in for my buddy Chris Plant today, trying to get to everything. And, you know, there's a lot of serious stuff going on still with the Charlie Kirk story and with Patel testifying in front of the Judiciary Committee here today, and Pam Bondi talking about hate speech and free speech and all this stuff. But we got into a little discussion during the break, and maybe we'll carry this over into the next hour, the final hour of the show. Robert Redford passed away in his sleep, reportedly. And Michael Pierce and I were trying to discuss what was the greatest Robert Redford screen appearance. And there are so many. And I have to say, yes, of course, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and yes, of course, The Sting, and yes, of course, The Way We Were. But for me, it was The Natural. The Natural, which the movie and the book did not agree. If you read the book and then you watched the movie, you may have been like me, standing up the theater go, wait a minute, hold on a second, that's not how it ended. But you're welcome to share your thoughts on Robert Redford's best movie, along with topics of the day, like we have been doing. Let's do a quick phone lightning round here. Have your statements ready. We'll try and get to as many as we can. Let's go to Lewis in Chicago, listening on the great WLS. Hello, Lewis. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. I was just wondering, you were mentioning that Trump was going over to the UK for an award, or what did he say? Because it sounds kind of weird that they're inviting him at this point. They're talking about a trade deal that supposedly was already signed, wasn't it? Didn't he call it one of the greatest trade deals ever?
Yes, he did. No, this invitation was issued back in the early part of the year. You just don't get invited and go the next day. The king invited the president in, I think, February or March of this year, and they set this up. So he's going there, and the president speculated he thinks they want to renegotiate some of the finer points of the trade deal, which, you know, he's going to try and stick to the deal, which we got a pretty good deal of it. So he's not going over there for an award. He was invited to a state visit. It's the second one to England, the first one with King Charles. So this is kind of interesting. We'll see what happens, but thank you. Let's check in with Richard in Alliance, Ohio. Hello, Richard. Richard?
How you doing? Yes, hello. You hear me?
Yes, you got it. You got it, but we're close on time. So what do you have to say?
Okay, so this morning what you mentioned about the Luigi Mangione thing, the people with the Smurf hats and the large L on it, I just started laughing right away. It's like they write their own jokes. It's like the big loser right on the hat.
That's right there. That's perfect. Why would you wear a hat with a big L on it? Everybody always makes the sign with their hand that says L. Yes, take the L. Take the L. That's right, the Mangione supporters there. So much fun today. We'll get to as many as we can next hour. We have to talk about this First Amendment. We also have to talk about the both sides falsehoods. And what's your favorite Redford movie? It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show.